Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Leaving a Rich Legacy. I'm so excited for my guest today. As you all know, this podcast really is a love letter to my younger self to talk about topics that we don't often talk about in the Black and Brown community. And one thing that I love to see is Black and Brown men really focusing on self love and healing. And I'm super excited for Chris to share his story with us today. So, welcome, Chris, to the podcast. So excited
Thank you
to
for
kind of
having me.
chat with you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and to you know to further your agenda. So you know,
Okay. Well, Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Christian Harris? Who is Chris?
Chris. Well, that's me. And basically, I am a father of two. Uh, 35 years old, a father of two. I'm from Chicago. Uh, I've been here in Texas now, Dallas, Texas area for about 8 years. So this is second home for me. Um, and I'm basically an evolved man, right? And so that's how I like to put it. And that's because that's what has been continuing to happen, whether or not I was conscious of it or not. So um, I am all about self development, wellness, mental health, and empowerment. There are you know countless people out here who are just drifting and dealing with life and its circumstances without really knowing that they have power and control over the circumstances based on a number of different factors. But that's who I am. I mean, I am. I'm just. I'm in a space where I feel like I have learned so much over my time, and I don't feel like it's. I learned all that just for me. So I am here just spreading light um, to any and everyone who comes across my path, and that brings fulfillment to me. So that's a little bit about me.
I love that. I love to ask that question because I feel like society has basically tried to define who we're supposed to be, what we're supposed to do. So I always enjoy hearing people respond and define themselves based on who they are and who they have basically stepped into who they're supposed to be versus like what we're told we're supposed to do,
Oh yeah.
and where we're supposed to be at a certain point in life. So that is awesome. So you talked about mental health, and I know you have been kind of transparent about your healing journey. So how did you
Mhm.
start your healing journey?
I started my healing journey back in, I want to say 2020. So it's been about a little over 3 years now that I've been on my healing journey. And how did I start? Uh, really, just not being able to really cope with uh, what I had been coping with for so long, right? And so essentially, I hit rock bottom with myself because those coping mechanisms just they didn't work anymore. So I had to, I guess it had to hurt enough for me to make some changes, and that led me to going to therapy and um, really that's where it started. That's where it started. I mean, I was coping with a lot of different things, had a lot of different questions that I couldn't get answers to. Um, a lot of whys, a lot of whys ultimately led me to this point. And really, it's interesting because you want to, you're always looking for answers. You're looking for answers, and I had a hard time forgiving. I had a really hard time forgiving, and that's just what it was. And I also had a hard time forgiving myself, and that took a toll on me mentally um, on a day-to-day basis, and you have vices and try to escape your thoughts and things like that, and they're still riding your back. You know what I mean? They're still riding you back, and ultimately uh, you can reject things for so long, right, before things kind of pour over. And so that's generally what caused me to be where I am now, or start. Let me say start my my journey.
Yes, because it's a process.
It's a
It doesn't
process.
stop. It's definitely a process. So you mentioned, like hitting rock bottom and forgiving yourself. What did that look like for you? Because forgiveness is something else when we think about others, right? Outside of like parents. I know that's something I've had to work through. But,
Mhm.
a lot of times we have certain expectations from people who they just don't have the capacity to give us what we're asking for. But then it's different when you have to reflect and forgive yourself. So, like, what did that look like?
Whew, that was a process. That was heavy. And really, what really allowed me to start forgiving myself and forgiving other people was, um, well, let me say, the reason that I couldn't forgive other people and forgive myself was because of ignorance, my own ignorance, right? Um, so what I had to do was start to educate myself about myself first and foremost, right? I had to come to really understand me, and then in doing so, seeking knowledge and information, I've been able to understand other people and understand the people who I couldn't forgive for so long. And what that looked like was just understanding that we're all human, we're all having a human experience, and we're all on our own paths. Um, and so was I, right? And so I beat myself up quite a bit because I found myself in a lot of the same situations in different places with different people in different environments. And it was just like, yo, like, I don't like that feeling that I was feeling. So why am I here again? You get what I'm saying? But essentially, I guess I was just looking at things on the surface, and processing from that level of consciousness and awareness that I was at that time. And so once I began to educate myself, um, you know, therapy obviously was my um, foot into my forgiveness journey, or healing journey, self-love development. And so just educating myself and just not taking things personal, because everybody's dealing with their own stuff. Um, and I made everything about me. Everything was about me. Like, how dare you? How dare you? And I can smile now because I'm happy to be here to share this, but it took a lot to get here. And I had some terrible thoughts along the way. And I'm so glad that I didn't, I overcame those thoughts to be here to be able to share this and share with anybody else who is, you know, going through it or feeling stagnant, right? And so, um, I'm thinking here, getting rid of guilt, getting rid of shame, apologizing where I needed to apologize, um, letting myself know that I was worthy of better. So it's been a beautiful process, but it's been a lot of pain along the way.
It's not all pretty.
No, it's not.
Um, Definitely not. But I love that you said like you realized like you were worthy. I don't think we tell ourselves that enough.
Yeah,
And I think sometimes we talk ourselves out of that. Like we're worthy of what we want. We're worthy to not put ourselves in situations where people or environments where it make us feel like I don't want to feel like that. So it's
that's
okay to
right.
remove myself from those situations. But therapy will help like understand those patterns of why you keep putting yourself in those
Right.
situations,
That's
in
right.
those people, in those interactions. So you have gone through therapy and, when I think about just like my circle or anyone, and I'm within close proximity, I don't hear a lot of Black or brown men talk about therapy. I have heard them to say things like, I don't want them to tell my business. There's this trust factor there. Like, do you have any encouraging words for someone who's thought about therapy, that is a man, male specifically, or is just like in this process where they don't feel comfortable because they don't want to share that information with someone else?
Yeah, so I guess it's definitely like a vulnerability factor, but it's also a conditioning as well. So the way I look at it is through schooling and our upbringing, we were told a lot of what we needed to know in order to, you know, get to a certain level. But once you get to a certain level, you need to start being able to think for yourself, right? And for me, I had terrible thoughts about therapy, right? I was very closed-minded at one point in regards to therapy, at least. And that also included me expressing my feelings, um, saying, wait a minute, I don't know if it's safe to talk about my stuff, my junk, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know about that. But when you really, really, really have a strong desire to be better, and you know that you are worthy of better, and you'll sabotage sometimes, but you know, you have to really find or feel what that safeness feels like for you when it comes to going to therapy. I know it's not easy. I know that we tend to feel like we're the only people dealing with whatever it was that we were dealing with. And my silly thoughts at the time was, how can another imperfect person tell me about me, right? That was just like one of the worst ways to think. But I understood why I thought the way I thought, because I was closed-minded at the time. So going to therapy, you have to understand you are talking to a professional, and um, they've studied enough to know how to um, work with you, and they're really there to help you. They're really there to help you expand your mind, give you understanding of yourself and your situations. And it's not all bad. I mean, it's not. The only bad is your thoughts that you carry around in your mind about opening up. And for me, I didn't. Life experiences. I mean, I kept it all to myself. You know, I didn't talk to friends about certain things, so it was a lot. And so when I went to therapy, I will say this, and I'm not being dramatic. It was one of the best days of my life. Right. I felt like, I mean, I broke down. Boo-hooed a little bit in there. You get what I'm saying? But I just felt like I was just able to like finally breathe. And when I went to therapy, well, before going to therapy, my selection process, I was very meticulous about it. I wanted to find somebody who understood me being a Black man. And I preferred a man that had gone through a similar walk of life in terms of, I'm coming from Chicago, the inner cities of Chicago, and just seen so much that I should not have seen, was involved in some things that I should not have been involved in as well. And I just wanted somebody who felt familiar to me. And that's how I stumbled across my therapist at the time. And it was one of the best days of my life. I remember coming home, I was smiling from ear to ear. I was like, man, like I did it. And okay, like, so now the door is open. So where do we go from here now? So I might not be putting the words together the right way right now for everybody listening and watching, but just my energy, I hope that anybody and everybody can feel the energy that I had when I left. And I've carried it with me ever since. So I'm a huge advocate for therapy. Just try it at least once. Just try it at least once.
Yeah, I agree. I'm smiling because that was like the same experience. I walked in feeling like I was carrying this weight, and then afterwards, I was like, "This feels so good."
Mhm.
So I absolutely agree, and I love that you touched on, like, you were very intentional about the therapist because, I hear a lot of people ask the question, like, what if it doesn't work out with your therapist? We'll find another one. Like, you want to make sure you
Mhm.
have a connection with your therapist because you want to make sure you're actually getting something from it, right? And it's okay to hop around until you find somebody that you have that connection with.
I agree, but I think that I can even see how that may be a little difficult hopping around. I felt like the universe was on my side and knew what I needed when I needed it, and I didn't have to search. So um, it just happened in that moment, and so I'm grateful for that. But I will encourage folks because I've talked to tons of people who were against therapy because their first experience wasn't great. And I've gone and seen other therapists as well, but and some of them weren't as well. I'll just say some of them weren't for me, whereas others have been. And so uh, it can be a process, but just keep an open mind about it because it is professional help. It is professional help aside from just your friends or your parents and colleagues and things like that.
Absolutely. So don't be afraid to, if you have to find someone else
Yeah.
until you find that connection. It's a process. It can be a process. I didn't have to do that, but I do understand it
Mhm.
can be a process. But not only that, sometimes we outgrow our therapists too. And it's a
Mhm.
season where you no longer are in a space to get what you need from them. My first therapist actually released me. She was like, it's time to fly. So that can happen as well. It doesn't mean that your journey with therapy ends. It just may be
Mhm.
like that season with that therapist is up.
Mhm.
So you're also a self-love advocate, which I love.
Yes.
I love to hear men talk about that because I personally, I have to speak from my experience. I personally don't see a lot of men talk about, self-love and what that means to them and why that's important. So why is practicing self-love important to you?
I think that, well, I know that for me, practicing self love, it's different than self care, which tends to steer more towards comfort, right? Self love is loving yourself despite the negative thoughts that might cross your mind, despite, you know, circumstances that may be deemed negative, uh, and just loving yourself through it. You know what I mean? Keeping yourself in a place mentally and spiritually where you know that you are worthy of greatness. Um, you're not your past. You're not the negative thoughts. You're not the negative things that might have happened to you. You know, understanding them, honoring them, and releasing them. And so we can do all the maintenance, but when it comes to self love, you have to love yourself, um, independent of all the worldly things and negative thoughts that you might have.
How do you think we can, help our like young boys understand self-love at an early age?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. I think that we need to have more intentional conversations with our young man, because society, when when we think of a man talking to a man, we think of what we used to think, right, of macho. It's just get back up, you fall down, get back up. It's just a lot of tough love. And so I think that having more conversations with young men about their feelings, their thoughts, and just letting them know that you know you're going to have unfortunate things happen, negative circumstances. You're going to feel all sorts of different feelings. And so I think what's important is to let the young men know that it's okay to feel everything. Um, because feeling everything and understanding what those feelings are trying to tell you is very important. Understanding what to do outside of those feelings is just as important. But it all leads to you just becoming more of a whole person. And I think that just like I do with my son, I mean, it's just, I love on him, but I also give him tough love at the same time. So I say that to say balance. I think that a lot of young men lack balance. And there's nothing feminine or anything about like loving on another man the right way. Encouraging words, embracing them with hugs, validating their feelings, and just giving them tools and resources to embrace the good thoughts and just don't chase the negative thoughts that they might have or that they will have, because we'll have them.
Have you found just through like your own healing and self-development journey and thinking about self-love, like you are more intentional about loving on the men around you, like in your circle?
Yes, absolutely. And really, to be honest with you, men who are not in my circle, well, I guess there's layers to the circle, right? And so if someone crosses my path, they enter my circle. And I'm very intentional about that. God and the universe have put me in a position to really be a vessel. I can't even tell you how fulfilling that is to just help other men out when they're going through tough times, and we are, and they are. And so I'm very intentional. I feel like I am, well, it falls within my purpose, right? And so when I leave and I wake up every day and I'm making phone calls and I'm coming in contact with men, I'm very purposeful about the way that I talk to them, the way that I listen to them. Recently I've had a few interactions which were mind blowing of, talking to men out of suicide. And it was really, really, and I just felt like I was at the right place at the right time. And that was one of the most fulfilling things, just to feel like you're saving a life. Well, you are not saving a life, but you are giving someone else permission to feel everything that they're feeling and know that they belong here still. And so I'm very intentional. I'm just like light walking around, because I'm very intentional with myself. And so I feel like I'm able to give whatever is pouring over after my cup is already full. So, yeah.
Powerful. Like, do you sit back and kind of reflect on the impact that you're making on the men that you are mentoring or coming in contact with? Like, do you really sit in it?
Yes. And full transparency, sometimes I have imposter syndrome. I have sabotaging thoughts. And I just have to let myself know that I'm worthy of this, and this is in alignment with my purpose, and so I sit in it. I don't take it for granted at all, because life is hard sometimes, right? It's really, really hard, and I understand that it's serious. And when you lose all faith and you just feel like your circumstances just as it cannot get any better, a lot of us men check out, right? And so I'm very intentional about remembering the tough times that I've been in. And so when I see someone, I see through the aggression and so on and so forth. I see through it. So I'm able to stand poised and understand there's something behind that. And so I sit with myself very, very often. And I have to decompress because I hear about a lot on a consistent basis these days. And so it's important. It's important for me to sit with myself and just realize that I'm here. I was put here for this reason. So
Purpose can be interesting when you're trying to figure it out, and of course be grateful for it, but like just never expect what can come and the interactions and the impact that you can make. But so you talked about like making sure your cup is full, and I'm a huge self-care advocate. So tell me about like your self-care routine. Why is self-care important to you? Is there anything that you do specifically to practice self-care?
I do a plethora of different things. One of them is just having gratitude, you know, just kind of moving in gratitude. From the moment I wake up, I'm grateful. And I'm repeating that multiple times as soon as I wake up in the morning, every single morning, just thank you. Just thank you. You know what I mean? Like even at my lowest, when I had, you know, hardly nothing, right? I was just still grateful. And I just, you know, I walk, I get out in nature a lot. That's one of my favorite things to do is just get out, find nice places to walk where I can listen to the sounds and smells and just feel more connected with the universe. I read a lot. I just feel like a lot of my issues came from ignorance, right? And so for me, educating myself regarding, you know, human nature has been life-changing for me. And so now I understand people better. I feel like I'm light years ahead of where I used to be. I journal a lot. And one of the unique things that I do is I audio record as well. So if I have a thought that comes to my mind, I honor the thought and I'll pull out my phone and press record and I'll record whatever that is that I'm feeling and that I'm experiencing in that particular moment. And so I don't run from the feelings. I honor them. Self-care, man, it's a vibe, right? It is a complete vibe. I mean, to go from, you know, not even thinking about self-care, self-love, you know, hardly hearing about it, to just like basking in it on a consistent basis, it just it does something to me. So I do that, and then I also I'm very careful about what I'm putting in my body, and so I just feel like when I'm putting the right foods and I'm making sure I'm drinking enough water, I'm caring for the body, right? Which is you only get one, so the better care I take care of my body, the better I'm going to be for myself, but also my children, my family, friends. And so I'm very intentional about it. I'm just trying to think what else do I do? Music is therapy for me. Music, I mean, just oh man, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like a vibe is a vibe. That's kind of my thing. And journaling is a vibe. Audio recording is a vibe. Putting on the right music is a vibe for me. And it all pours into self-care. So I need it. I can't live without it now. So it's
So I definitely agree that it's a vibe. It's more than like you probably don't think about like, oh, this is self-care or this is self-love. Because in the moment it's just something you're doing for yourself and you're feeding yourself. And like even when I coach some of my clients, they assume that self-care you have to spend all this money. It can be free. A lot of things are free. Just about everything you said is free. So you don't even have to spend any money. You don't even have to leave your house if you don't want to. but it's just really like making that time to pour into yourself, and it's specifically prioritizing yourself in that moment. So you're right, it is a vibe, and it's something
Yeah.
that is definitely worth doing more often versus it being like a checklist. I believe in
Yes.
self-care Sunday, but I practice self-care every day. So
Mhm.
that's great. So these audio recordings that you have, like,
Mhm.
have you ever thought about like writing a book or, using it? Because that could be pretty powerful for somebody else.
Yes, absolutely. So this 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 self-help book is constantly circling my mind all the time. I just know that I have to create the time when the time is right, although the time isn't always right, if that makes sense, um, to do it. It is very powerful, even when I go back and re-listen to them, because sometimes I might be feeling down and out. I'm still human, right? And so it's a skill, it's a learned skill to be able to know what to do when you're feeling a certain feeling to get you back to where you need to be. And some, a lot of the times, um, I'll go back and I'll refer back to not just my notes because I can read, but just to hear my tone when I of the recordings that I've made, and just see how I articulate myself about what it was that I was experiencing in those moments. It's extremely empowering to see the growth in a audio version versus just something's written down. So yes, the book is still circling my mind.
Okay. It's coming when you
It's
get the
coming.
time and you
It's
fully
coming.
accept that might be in line with you.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so kind of going back to your healing journey,
Mhm,
and so the first time I came across you was I saw you had posted a reel about like healing
mhm.
after divorce, and sometimes I feel like we can like hop from relationship to relationship, or we just don't take the time to like reflect. Why do you think healing after a relationship is important?
A number of factors. You have to give yourself time to be a whole person. You have to give yourself time to grieve, to process and learn uh, the lessons that marriage teaches you or that relationship has taught you. Because if you don't, then like I said in the beginning, you're going to carry this stuff over from relationship to relationship to relationship, and it's just going to be a different person reflecting back you to you all these different things. And essentially, unintentionally, you're going to be hurting other people. Divorces hurt, breakups hurt, right? And so it's okay to acknowledge that it hurts. And it's also um, mindful that honor the pain and also just seek to be better than you were in that past relationship. Um, for me, I just wanted to carry a certain level of integrity as I went through the process. And so that reel that a lot of people have seen, that was a compilation essentially of different days, doing different things on my journey. And I just decided to put it all together one day. And I got it. It just felt right in the moment to create it. I got some folks had asked me like, "Hey, look, I've seen this other reel. Hey, check it out." And I'm like, I'm already on it already. So, you know how trendy things get, and so it was kind of like it became a trend. And so, um, I'm glad that it was received the way that it was received by majority of the people. Obviously, you have a lot of negative comments and commentary about it, but that's not for me to internalize, right? That video served a purpose. It's still serving a purpose. And I am so humble to have shown other men and women some transparency, men are known for, not feeling anything. No. That stuff hurts. Okay. That stuff hurts. And I just think that for me, just honoring how I felt in those moments, but also honoring in myself to say, you know what, let's have some integrity when we exit this thing here. And don't get me wrong, I'm still human. I reverted back to some bad habits and so on and so forth. But the point is, I kept going. The point is that you keep going to just meet the higher version of yourself. And that way you can be better for yourself. You can be healing for other people. And you'll attract the right types of people in your life versus what you used to have before.
It's interesting that you said there were some negative comments, and I guess, negativity is everywhere.
Yes.
But you didn't internalize that because, that's not for you to carry. Obviously, there's something going on with that individual, whatever the comment response was. But like you're at a place where you're not going to internalize that because that's not your responsibility,
Right.
or that's not for you to carry. But I will say it appeared that you made a very huge impact on a lot of men, which
Yes.
is beautiful to see, honestly, because I think sometimes we forget that men are human and they have emotions, and they cry, right? But growing up, a lot of times we don't see it. So,
That's right.
we forget that you all are. But during this process, have you had to encourage somebody to like find their identity after divorce? And if there's someone watching, like to provide that encouragement, because you're starting a new journey where some people could be 30, 40 years, 10, 5, whatever. But do you have any encouraging words for someone that's trying to just find their identity after?
Yes. So the first answer is yes. I've encouraged, at this point, I don't know how many people, men and women, on their life after divorce. Because truth be told, that was a huge part of your identity. That was your daily life, right? And so a lot of times we lose ourselves in relationships. We lose ourselves in relationships. We stop, or we get into relationships not even doing certain things, whether we're overvaluing someone else and undervaluing ourselves. And so what I tell people is basically, focus on you, right? And independent of what happened in the relationships or whatever, everything might not have been your fault, right? But it's still your responsibility to take care of yourself. And so a huge part of what I'm encouraging folks to do is make sure you're eating right. Make sure you're seeking professional help if you feel like you need it. I encourage it anyway. Just give it a try. You don't know what it'll do for you, especially if you haven't tried it out. Don't carry shame. You are worthy of just so much more in that you're basking in that painful space, right? Get rid of the guilt, because guilt is like, it's when we think about it and we educate ourselves on it, it really serves no purpose. It really serves no purpose. What you need to do is seek to ask for forgiveness from those, if you can, right? Make things right if you can. And then, you forgive yourself. Learn to forgive yourself, educate yourself, do the things that really bring you joy. Nobody else has to like it. It can be the weirdest thing in the world. Be weird. I'm just going to say that. Be weird, be you, because a lot of times we tend to not be our full selves in these relationships. And that suppressing isn't good for you, because truth be told, you are cheating yourself and you're cheating the world out of someone great. And so just honor yourself, just be completely yourself, as weird as you are. Whether it's a genre of music you like to listen to, go listen to it. If it makes you feel good on the inside, go and listen to it. And just understand that as you go on the journey, there's a difference between solitude and loneliness. A lot of people feel lonely, and that's a weakness. But when you're in your solitude, you're honoring yourself, taking time to yourself, and it's okay. That's a strength. And when you can, wrap your mind around that, you'll learn how to operate independent of any environment that you're in, any group of people that you're around. You are you, but for you and by yourself. So those are a few words.
Do you find that, because you're so open and transparent about your healing and self-development, that outside of people reaching out to you, but like family and friends, that you're inspiring them to do the same?
Yeah, I have. And I remember, in particular, I had a family trip some years back. It was it's like a family reunion, but it was for Thanksgiving. And I was going through my process. Nobody knew really what was going on. I was a very private person. But I opened up and I started sharing the things that I started learning about myself. And it felt so good, because like I say, you really don't hear or haven't heard self-love, self-care, all these things, And so I was able to go back and just talk to folks about healing childhood wounds and childhood traumas. And when I look at folks, it's like, okay, they don't know, but what they're experiencing right now and the way that they are treating themselves right now and treating other people has a lot to do with some wounds that may have come from their childhood, or other relationships that they didn't take the time to heal from. And that's something else that I'll suggest that people do on the journey, is take the time to heal, take the time to work through that trauma, if there was any trauma, because there is at least some level of trauma, because you have to grieve. It's like a death, but the people are still alive. And so that in itself, just talking to family is just, I just felt like a resource at the time, and I just felt like by me healing, I'm able to help my family heal, like this is cool, like this is okay, like this is different, and it costs nothing, right? My life brought me to this point. It took time. So if anything, it was time that I paid to get to where I am, to be able to help myself heal and help my family heal as well. So it's beautiful. So
Yeah, I can agree. Just me being on my own journey has, like, directly, my mom has done a lot of self-reflection. And my dad, like, listened to my podcast, and if anybody know my dad, he a trip. But just for him to ask questions and to, like, push me to keep going, although he's not comfortable with some things, or, I don't know if I don't think he's open to therapy, but through the process, he's encouraging me, and I see others around me and my family, like, wanting to do the self-work, and I think that in itself is powerful. Like you said, it
yeah,
doesn't cost anything, but, you hit on something that's important. So childhood trauma, even through coaching or just interacting with people, they feel like it had to be like something physical at times. And it's not. It's not at all. I've spoken, multiple times about so childhood trauma probably for me and my siblings were when my parents divorced because we all process it differently. And now we all, interact with people differently and interact with relationships differently. And that's something that someone wouldn't consider to be traumatic. But for us, it was, right? So we all have some level of trauma that we need to address. And the triggers are real. If you don't know how to have that awareness and how to respond, how not to take things personal, you talked about like just once you go through that process, like you're more aware of why you respond to something when the other individual was not even intentional to offend you or make you feel that way.
No,
So
that
definitely on the trauma. I get
no,
childhood trauma. It's got to be
no,
tapped into.
it's a real thing, and you don't know until you know. And for me, once I realized, you know, man, like I have abandonment issues, I have rejection issues. It was like what, like what's going on here? You get what I'm saying? And once you understand how powerful and how controlling those traumas are and those triggers are over your life, it's a game changer for you. And once you work through understanding how to um, work through that trauma and to heal from those experiences, your life literally starts to change in those moments. And you, like, again, we're human, so we're gonna take a couple of steps back here and there, but just having the knowing that this is what I need to propel me in the right direction. So just keep going, no matter how many times you fall or stumble along the way, just keep going, and healing from my childhood traumas has allowed me to become a significantly more emotionally intelligent man. I was very reactive um, because of the traumas and triggers. And so now it's clearly I understand everything is not about me. So everything does not need a reaction. I give myself ample time to process things and respond in better timing. And so, just understanding feelings and emotions and, I didn't understand it before. It was just like, this is how I feel. This is what I'm going to say. This is what I'm going to do. And people get hurt indirectly. You get what I'm saying? And vice versa, right? And when we are in contact with people and they haven't done the work, they're indirectly hurting you because they're hurt and they just don't know it. And so for me, it gives me a level of compassion for so many people because I've given myself compassion for not knowing what I didn't know. And I know that a lot of people just don't know. And so I have compassion for it. I don't take it personally. It's just like, okay, now I'm not going to say I need to stick around or anybody needs to stick around if I'm doing wrong. You get what I'm saying? But I have a level of compassion just to say, okay, I understand.
That's good. That's good. So Chris,
Mm-hmm.
do you celebrate yourself?
I do now. I was just talking to someone about this the other day, just asking about like, do you celebrate yourself? I do. And imposter syndrome tries to get in the way. Sabotaging tries to get in the way of that sometimes because you haven't done it for so long with the right intention. So I intentionally take time to celebrate myself. For me, celebrating myself is just words of affirmation, right? Spending time along. I just went on a trip to Boston, and I intentionally, right, went and just spent time to myself out there. You get what I'm saying? And it was very fulfilling. I traveled a lot in the past, but it wasn't with the right intent. Spoke about this on a previous podcast, and it was a coping mechanism to an extent. And some people are like, wait a minute, what? Traveling, coping? No, yeah, for me it was. I mean, I had the means to do it. And so but I just didn't have the right intent. I was trying to escape certain things. But now it's like, no, we're not escaping anything. We're doing this to show love and compassion towards yourself. And so, absolutely, you just have to. I mean, I just think back about the journey, and it's like, yo, like we are here, we are doing this. This feels good. This feels great. So take time to let Chris know he's worthy, and just pat yourself on the back and hug yourself. You get what I'm saying? And in whatever way you see fit. But I have to. And like I say, imposter syndrome, because I lived in a space for so long where I was upset at myself for so long that I didn't really live in the moment. And now I'm significantly more present. And yeah, that celebration is necessary. It's very necessary.
Yes, it is. But I asked that just because of all the work that you're doing. Just like, do you take a moment to celebrate yourself, the work that you're doing for yourself specifically, right? On yourself, but then the people that you're impacting. And you mentioned, taking a trip and being intentional. And I think that's important too, just to be okay, like with just yourself, right? Like if nobody else is here, like, am I okay with being just with Jessica? And am I comfortable with that? Or do I have to keep people around to make me feel good, entertained? So I think that's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So I have to ask this question, which is a question I love to ask. But if you could have a conversation with younger Chris, what would you tell him?
Love yourself. Make sure that you are loving yourself. I didn't hear it. I never can remember hearing it. And me telling myself that now, it means so much. And I feel like had I heard it more, some things would have been different. But everything happens for a reason. I would also tell him, don't take everything personal. Everybody's on their own independent journey, and everybody's gonna do what feels right to them in the moment. Don't be so hard on yourself.
Mm.
Don't be so hard on yourself. And just live in the moment. And just live in the moment. Just try to be as present as you can in as many moments as you can.
That's good. Especially don't be so hard on yourself, because we can be the worst, right?
Oh yeah.
The one
Own
person
worst
you'll talk
enemy.
to the most in your life is yourself, because you're having conversations in your head all day. So that's a good one.
Yeah.
Now, I asked you a lot of questions, and I just want to know, is there anything that you would like to share about your journey, or just something that you didn't say earlier, just to encourage somebody else who may have just started the process or in the middle of it and want to give up? Like, is there anything else that you'd like to share?
It is a process. And honor the process. Man, this is heavy for me because the process has been real. The process has been real. Once you control your thoughts, you realize that you have so much more control over your circumstances and your current reality. And so make it your business to get your mind right, get your spirit right, believe that you deserve better and that better is coming. Because one thing about me, I knew it was going to be a dogfight. I knew it was going to be a process. And I just feel like the integrity that I carried with myself, I really honor that integrity because I knew that greater was coming. I knew that I just believed in being righteous and just along the way. It's not a sprint. We don't want to try to rush to get to the other side because we're going to skip and we're going to miss some things because we're in a hurry, because it hurts, because we're comparing ourselves to that person's journey and that person's journey. Learn to sit with yourself, by yourself, and respect your process. But just know that all the little work that you're putting in on a consistent basis, it's for a reason. It's just like a muscle. When you're working out, you don't see a muscle grow, in 2 or 3 days, right? It takes time. And the process is the same way. It takes time. But eventually, you will break through a certain resistance level. And that resistance level will then become your support that you'll be standing on and sharing your story of how you made it to the other side.
You've been very intentional about talking about, we're all on different journeys. And I think that is so important. Even when you mentioned the reel that a lot of people saw, and that was like a combination of videos at different times, might have been different, different years, may have not all been 2023. But that is one thing that is important. Like all of us are on different journeys, different paths. Social media will have you to believe everything looks great or we got there quickly, but it truly is a process that you can't compare to someone else because like everything that you've gone through is going to look differently to get you to a better place. So I definitely want to remind folks that, but I'm happy that you've said that, a number of times. I can look at your video and be like, wow, he got it together. He's in like, he's still working through it.
That's
So we
right.
definitely can't do the comparison when we look at other individuals. And you said something that I think stuck out to me, and I just have to ask you this.
Mhm.
You mentioned you gave yourself permission to heal. And I believe that we are all worthy of what's on the other side of healing. What does that mean to you that you gave yourself permission to heal?
In that moment, when you know that you are destined for better, and this isn't the finish line for you, you have conversations with yourself. Just like, we see people walking up and down the street and we might say, oh my God, they're crazy. They're talking to themselves. No, I talk to myself too. And so within that internal dialogue that I'm having with myself, I'm just letting myself know, look, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay that you are where you are. It's okay that certain things have taken place. But there's another version of yourself waiting on you. And in order to meet that person, you got to go through a process of healing. And so I just feel like the permission was validation to just do the arduous work that was necessary to meet that other version of myself.
Well, I'm super excited for you and all the opportunities that will continue to come for you and the people you connect with. I'm sure some people will want to connect with you after this. So how can people reach out and connect with you or, subscribe, follow?
So obviously, Instagram, people can follow me. I am underscore Chris J Harris. Um, that's also my email. I am Chris J Harris at gmail.com. People can email me there. I'm always getting emails, beautiful emails, heartfelt emails. I respond to as many people as I can. I have one-on-one calls with people, going through their processes. And so those are the two main ways to reach me, Instagram and via my email.
Oh, perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time, Chris. Enjoyed
Thank
the
you.
conversation. I know it's going to inspire someone, so I appreciate it. Thank
No
you.
problem. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you having me. Thank you so much.